Hello everyone and welcome back to some Marvel Crisis Protocol for the channel. Today in this 20 threat match, the Avengers are going up against a Criminal Syndicate list, and the two missions being played today are two that have quite drastically changed, I believe, in the updated Crisis cards that are available in a free PDF at present on the AMG website, coming as a card pack at some point this year, I think they said, towards the end of it, or latter half at least. So we'll be trying those out as opposed to last time when it was two of the missions that were basically the same. So this time very different, especially one of them. But first of all, let's look at the two sides. So here are the Avengers present today, being led by the giant Hulkbuster, taking control with his Hulkbuster's affiliation bonus, joined by Hawkeye, Ant-Man, the Vision, and the new Captain America, which is ironically the old one from World War II. So he's just tagging along to give him another try on the channel, and their tactics cards are Avengers Assemble Second Wind, Helios Laser Bombardment, Heavy Ordnance, and PIM Particles. And we have a ridiculous 7 models in the Criminal Syndicate crew, being led by Shadowland's Daredevil, aka the good Daredevil, which is somewhat ironic, with his hand ninja henchmen, or minions, at the back here. And then bringing along Black Cat, we have Bullseye, we have MODOK, Taskmaster, and also Gambit to form up the 20 threat. And their tactics cards: Crow Tutelage, Shadow Organization, all according to plan, Shuriken, Arashi, and No Mercy. And here's the two Crisis cards being played today, again just printouts until such time as they release the updated card pack at some point this year. So it's Skrulls and Deadly Meteors. Now, as far as changes go, if I remember rightly, the Origin Bombs used to be 3 victory points to whoever controlled the majority. Now they're just worth 1 each, and they use one of the new deployment types, map type L, or I, whichever one. So other than that, they basically work the same. You can interact with an Origin Bomb roll equal to your physical. If the roll contains more hits, crits, and wilds than the number of healthy enemy characters, you control it. But if the roll contains a skull, you also suffer 1 damage. So you still have to roll to control them, but it's 1 VP per 1 controlled. And then the Skrulls is really different. You used to have the 3 potential Skrull agents. You had to check who his Skrull was, and then you hold on to them. Now there's 4 of them on the map, and there's no umming and ahhing. They're all Skrulls. You also score 1 VP for each Skrull held. A character can only hold 1 Skrull at a time, and when you pick one up, there's a chance you roll equal to their physical defense. Oh, sorry, that was energy. I'm blind. Physical defense. If the result does not contain 1 or more crits or wilds, the opposing player pushes them short. So when you pick one up, they could get pushed into danger, depending. But that also means there's a bit of an issue, because there is 4 Skrulls required, and the original version of the mission had 3 potential Skrulls. So in order to just use 4 of the same objective type, the civilian tokens here, and over here are actually Skrulls. They're just disguised. And this is another new map layout type called map type J. And the Origin Bombs, 1, 2, 3. This one here is ever so slightly closer to this flank. That one ever so slightly closer to the flank in the middle, or up the top rather, and then the one in the middle is basically dead center of a table, more or less. And the Skrulls are placed in such a way that there's 1 on each flank, and then 2 in the center to encourage you to push into the center and have a big brawl, which is what they're trying to do with the changes to the Crisis cards. They don't want the games to be super long. They want you to get into the center scrum and just beat each other up. So here we are with deployment and all set up and ready to start. The Avengers are on your left and will be taking first activation unless they opt to use a pass, of course. And the Criminal Syndicate is to your right. They are 5 to 7. So yeah, they do have passes if they want to use them. And we can quickly just take a look. Criminal Syndicate, they've got enough models that they can just basically be in a big line, with Taskmaster kind of off on his own at the edge there, and Black Cat and Gambit over there. The Avengers kind of split up as well, sort of. Captain America down here with Clint. Then we have the Hulkbuster, Ant-Man here. And then finally the Vision over there. Everyone's powered up and we're good to jump into turn 1, so it'll either be the Avengers or Criminal Syndicate if they opt to pass. So the Avengers did indeed opt to use a pass. So for Criminal Syndicate, MODOK activated and moved up his small twice into the center here, so that he was wedged kind of in between 1 Origin Bomb and 2 Skrulls, and he paid his 1 power to pick up the Skrull slightly closer to the Avengers deployment line. Steve Rogers activated first for the Avengers side, and he moved up twice, ignoring the closest Origin Bomb in order to pick up the Skrull that was just past it. He paid his 1 power to do so, and unfortunately for him, he did not get a crit or a wild on his defense roll, so he had to he had to be pushed small, and as a result he's been pushed closer there, so that Taskmaster is within threat radius. Forgot to mention it for MODOK, but he did not roll, or rather he did roll a wild or a crit, so there was no movement there. Black Cat activated, she moves along and did so in order to get into position here, such that she was range 1 from the Origin Bomb right there, and then also a Skrull agent that was to her left. She picked it up for her 1 power, and she was successful in rolling a wild or a crit in a roll, so no push. Vision was up next for the Avengers. He moved up his medium, and that put him within range 3, so Black Cat's stealth could not apply, and obviously range 4 for his just base attack Solar Beam. Oh, forgot to mention though, unless otherwise stated, presume he's in his density form that lets him be better against physical attacks, because that's mostly what's coming at him, or Mystic from MODOK, but can't really do anything about that. So he used the Solar Beam, had 3 hits through on the 5 dice energy attack. Black Cat had 3 defense dice, she got a crit in there, and ended up blocking all the damage amazingly. No rerolls or anything else required, just blocked it fully. So at the top of the table, Gambit moved up twice, like a movement and a half more or less, to get to where you can see him, within 1 of the Origin Bomb there. He paid his 1 power, he interacted, he took the Origin Bomb. There's no real fitting Criminal Syndicate icon, so we're just going to use the Hydra ones to show off that the bad guys, I guess, have it. They really should have like $ tokens or something. Either way though, he took control of it, but he did roll a skull, so he's taken 1 damage from the effort. But that is the first Origin Bomb to be controlled by any one of the 3 on the table. So Ant-Man activated for the Avengers, and he had a heck of a first turn because of all the shenanigans you can do. He paid 1 power to immediately change size, so you place his smaller size within 1. Then he can use Hitch a Ride to be placed within 3, still not using any actions. And that placed him roughly by the big tree there. So then for his first actual action, he moved ever so slightly closer, because when he's small size, he has to be within range 1 to attack anyone with his ant-sized uppercut. Range 1, 6 dice physical, power equal to damage dealt, and then you have to grow back up. So he used it on MODOK, and he actually managed to do really well. He did 4 damage to poor MODOK, and then of that 4 power he generated from doing that, he spent 1 to try and convert the Origin Bomb, which is under the small version of him here. We just left that there to describe what happened. Didn't do it, unfortunately. He's only rolling 2 energy defense. But he is also picking up this Skrull here. So he has done that. And MODOK definitely felt the blows, and that's why an opening salvo from Ant-Man can be pretty good. Well, to try and jump on the chance to attack Ant-Man, the Shadowland Daredevil activated, which meant that his minions, his hand ninjas, would activate. They moved forward and used ninja weapons, range 2, 4 dice physical attack on Ant-Man. They got lucky, and they managed to do 2 damage to him. It was a pretty good roll and a pretty bad defense roll for his normal size. He did not shrink down at that point. Shadowland Daredevil moved up medium and then used the baton snare, range 4 on Ant-Man, and it's only 4 dice, but at the prospect of that potentially getting through, he opted to pay 1 power to shrink down to go into small form. He has to drop the objective he's holding, and then he becomes small form. Now, it was a little unclear how this works, because it doesn't specify when you shrink down how an attack that is no longer in range is treated, because small form has stealth, and that would mean you need to be within 3. Baton Snare is a range 4, where he is currently. Baton Snare is technically out of range because of stealth, but do you proc the original target and keep going? Was a little unclear, because it's not like the shield card or Loki and whatnot, where when he does Trickster, where it specifies what happens and it allows the enemy to pick another target or do another action. So it's a little unclear. Couldn't find the... Well, there is transform rules in the online PDF. Doesn't really specify what happens regarding that. So in this particular instance, we're just running it that the attack went through. Doesn't matter anyway, because with the rerolls for being small, he didn't take any damage from it. But was a little unclear, and it might matter, because if it meant the Daredevil could do something else, like for instance another move, he could go pick up the dropped civilian, or Skrull, sorry. So that might be game changing. Couldn't find an answer at a glance. Feel free to mention where in the rulebook it specifies regarding that, because the transform page did not mention it. Second last activation for the Avengers, the Hulkbuster moved up medium to where you can see him, then did a heavy repulsor blast, picking on them really into the hand ninjas, 5 damage, instantly removing them with their 2 health, so he generated a couple of power off of that. He paid 1 power to pick up the Skrull that Ant-Man dropped when he shrunk. Second last activation for Criminal Syndicate was Taskmaster, however, just mentioning on camera, Hulkbuster was not shifted by picking up the Skrull. Anyway, Taskmaster moved up medium and then initiated a sword strike into Captain America, who fully blocked the damage. Hawkeye was the last activation in the first turn for the Avengers. He moved up twice in order to just get within range 1 of this Origin Bomb. Paid 1 power to interact with it. He's only rolling 2, but he did manage to get it thanks to no enemy interference being nearby. So that is their turn done. It is over to Bullseye to end off the battle round fully. So Bullseye moved up medium. It was a bit of an awkward fit, but he did get there right next to Shadowland Daredevil. He wanted to do some range 4 chucking at Clint, but he is just out. So he opted instead to do it on the Hulkbuster. He did actually manage to do 1 damage through, and for some reason the Hulkbuster is not immune to bleed, so the machine is bleeding. So then about round 1 we have the scores and everything tabulated. The Origin Bomb in the centre of the map was not claimed. I think only Ant-Man tried to grab it and didn't manage it with his 2 energy defense. So as things stand, the Criminal Syndicate have a Skrull agent on MODOK and Black Cat for 2, and they hold the Origin Bomb at the top of the table there, so they get 3. Captain America and the Hulkbuster have Skrull agents for the Avengers, and they also have this Origin Bomb closest to camera. So everything even on 3 points apiece as we go into battle round 2 with the Avengers going first, unless again they opt to start with a pass. So turn 2 got started with Ant-Man having a very busy turn and a lot of movement shenanigans. He was the original movement shenanigans guy before like Juggernaut and whatnot came along. So first of all, let's do this in order. Started with Second Wind being played. Ant-Man and the Hulkbuster both coughed up 1 power in order to heal 1 damage each. Simple as that. Then he used Hitch a Ride to move 3, or be placed within 3, sorry, not in action. Then he used Pym Particles, which is, if we just turn this around and hopefully get it in focus, Ant-Man or the Wasp may spend 2 to play this card. Choose another allied friendly within 3. He chose the Hulkbuster. Then choose an interactive terrain feature size 3 or less within 3 of them. They throw it medium. So the Hulkbuster picked up this oversized tree, and because these trees are quite large, we count them as size 3. Chucked it into MODOK for 3 damage. Right there. Still hadn't used an action, because that wasn't an attack on a tactics card. So he was over here, he was small, he did an ant-sized uppercut because he was within range 1 of Bullseye, hit him for 2, got placed as full-sized Ant-Man. He then, as his other actual action, just did his basic 4 dice physical Pym punch, or whatever it's called, on his big size. That actually managed to do 2 more damage to Bullseye, dazing him, so he's not getting a turn this activation, and he can opt to shrink down again, and he did so. So he bounced all over the place. He got the Hulkbuster to chuck a tree. Very busy turn for Ant-Man there. First activation this turn for Organised Crime was MODOK. He started by paying 1 power to interact with the central Origin Bomb and did convert it to their side. So they now have 2 out of the 3 under their control. Then he decided to use a Doomsday Chair on the Hulkbuster, but first of all played Cruel Tutelage. So a Criminal Syndicate character can just pay 1 to use it. The next attack they make this turn rolls 3 extra attack dice, putting his Doomsday Chair at 10 rather than 7. But if you roll 1 or more skulls, you get the stagger condition at the end of your activation. So he rolled a 10 dice Doomsday Chair into the Hulkbuster, who did pay 1 for Built to Take It, anticipating a lot of damage, and it's just as well because it would have been 5. Because of paying Built to Take It, it comes down to 4. And after that, MODOK decided to retreat ever so slightly because he's anticipating going down this turn. I think he's at 5, 6, 7. He's at 7 damage of his 10. So he is getting there, and he did roll a skull, so he's been given the stagger condition. But he dealt some damage, grabbed an Origin Bomb, and that is a pretty scary card, that one. Vision activated for the Avengers and ended up where you can see him, but let's cover his turn step by step. Avengers Assemble was played first of all. Vision and the Hulkbuster both paid 1 to be advanced small. Was going to do it with Steve Rogers, but this version of Steve Rogers is not in the Avengers affiliation. This is Steve Rogers, Captain America, not to be confused with Captain America Steve Rogers. So he can't. He's not in their affiliation, just in S.H.I.E.L.D. So he had to stay put. But that put Vision very close to the Origin Bomb and Black Cat. He did 2 solar beams. The first one did 3, so another one felt like it would have been good enough. It did 2, and as a result has dazed her. Now, he did things in a very specific order here because she dropped a Skrull. He spent 1 power first to interact with the Origin Bomb, only 2 energy dice, so he needed both to be successes with Gambit there, and he actually managed to get it and convert it. Then he paid 1 to interact with the Skrull on the floor, pick it up, and he only had 2 dice again because when he buffs his defenses, it's not for objective rolls as far as we can tell. So he was moved by that and has been shoved a little bit closer to the threat radius of Shadowland Daredevil down there and Gambit. And more importantly, away from the Origin Bomb. So Shadowland's Daredevil activated, moved medium towards the centre of the table there to make it harder to take back that Origin Bomb. Then he did his basic attack. It was a Coordinated Strike, range 2, 5 dice physical. Hulkbuster paid 1 for Bill to take it, and it's a good job he did, because otherwise he would have taken 5 damage. He had no successes on his defense roll, and the attack roll was pretty good. Not even a spike, really, just pretty good. And after that's resolved, the hand ninjas come back with an activation token already on them, so that's why they're there. So yeah, the Hulkbuster's up to 8 damage, I believe. Yeah, 8 damage of his 13, so he is hurting. And it's going to be harder to take back the Origin Bomb now, and he's still bleeding as well. Well, the Hulkbuster had a busy turn. He started by playing Helios Laser Bombardment just so he had access to the attack at some point during his turn. He put in 4 Ant-Man, put in 3 Vision, put in 3, taking it to a total of 12, I believe. So, first of all though, he also spent, because he was sitting on a lot of power now, on Now I'm Mad, to pick up a piece of train size 4 or less within 3, I think, or 2, and chuck it. He is picking up the Steve Rogers statue there, chucked it into MODOK, who took 4 damage and is dazed, only needed 3 to be dazed. So that was his first, well, it wasn't even an action, that was his first superpower. Then he opted to spend for hit and run, and then used Helios Laser Bombardment off of the back of that hit and run, which it seems like you can do. So he moved back at the end of his turn to where you can see him there, but he dropped the Laser Bombardment, and continuing the trend with every single time that card's been used on this channel, it never rolls very well no matter how many dice you put in. All said and done, Shadowlands Daredevil took 3, and the explosion on impact did 1 damage to the hand ninjas who have 2 health. So they stayed there as well. He did then pay his last power he had sitting to try and convert the Origin Bomb there, and could not do it. So that card once again disappointed despite how much power got put into it. We'll move that statue in a second. At least he dazed MODOK and he did a bit of damage, but not great. Gambit activated for Criminal Syndicate, stayed where he was for his turn and did 2 kinetic aces in a row onto Vision, 5 dice energy, and it has explosive on wild. He got the explosive proc both times. He was also pretty consistent with his damage despite Vision rolling 5 defense dice against this physical attack. He did 2 damage both times, so Vision's up to 4 of his 6, I believe, on his healthy side. And thanks to the explosive also proccing both times, Hulkbuster's taken 2 more damage, putting him at 10, I believe. Yeah, 10 of his 13. Then, to end his turn, Gambit paid 1 to try and interact with that Origin Bomb again, and failed again, and rolled a skull again, so he took 1 damage. He's the only one who's been hurt by the Origin Bomb tinkering so far. He clearly didn't pay attention during the Here's How to Disarm the Bombs class. Second last activation for the Avengers, Steve Rogers activated. He moved Medium over here, and then did a Stars and Stripes Strike, I think it is called. Range 3, 5 dice physical. He did it into Shadowlands Daredevil. As long as he gets a hit and a shield, he can also do another one thanks to Flurry. And it was the first spike of the game, although honestly the defense roll was really good as well, and blanks were counting successes for Shadowland Daredevil. The initial roll was 3 crits, 2 shields. So he got the Flurry pretty easily off of the back of those crits rolling into another hit. But Shadowland Daredevil, his defense was pretty good. 1 damage. Now, I didn't bother putting the damage on the table, but the Flurry was done into the Hand Assassins. I believe it was 5 damage in total, 4 or 5. They had 1 left after Hulkbuster kind of hurt them a little bit, so they are once again removed from the table and will have to be placed back down next turn. So it was over to Taskmaster as the final activation of the second round for Criminal Syndicate, thanks to all the dazes that have happened. Bullseye's not getting a turn, and neither is Black Cat. But just quickly mentioning a couple of things that I don't think were mentioned at the time. During Hulkbuster's turn, he only attacked once because his other action was to clear his bleed, get rid of it. With hindsight, that seems like it's a bit futile now, but that's what he did with his other action. And Shadowlands Daredevil's Shadow War affiliation bonus has been getting used, just not mentioning it as part of the rolls. It's just Criminal Syndicate characters get a reroll on attacks if they're hitting someone who is contesting or holding an objective, and that includes skulls. It's been getting used, just mentioning it for the sake of making sure that, yes, it is being used. Anyway, Taskmaster. He moved up medium to where you can see, and then he did his sword strike on Clint, and only managed to get 1 damage through. He paid 1 power to try and convert that Origin Bomb, and failed. Well, it was over to Clint Hawkeye to end off the turn. He spent 2 on Hook Arrow to boost himself over here with a range 3 placement. He then shot his quiver of arrows into Shadowland Daredevil, got him for 3 damage. It was also 3 wilds that got through, so he could have inflicted 3 status effects. Doesn't matter though, because that is enough, 1 over in fact, what was required to daze Shadowland Daredevil. So he is out of there. He then spent 1 to interact with the Origin Bomb, only rolling 2 dice, but did manage to get the 1 success needed with Shadowland Daredevil out of the way. So he converted it. So a very powerful, efficient turn for the Avengers there. But it did cost them quite a lot. But we'll cover that as we go over the scores. So then about round 2, the Avengers fought really hard there to pull ahead, and they definitely felt the beneficial effects of that, although it cost them a lot. The Hulkbuster's almost down. Vision's almost dazed. They tapped all but one of their tactics cards. Also, we do have to correct something a little bit. When the Hulkbuster threw the statue, didn't remove the statue. Not that there's anyone else here who can throw it anyway, but totally forgot to throw the statue. And also, in dazing MODOK, MODOK was holding on to one of the scrolls. Now, Hulkbuster tapped all his power in the turn in which he activated, so he couldn't have picked it up. It's possible that one of the enemy could have, or one of the Criminal Syndicate rather, but we're just going to leave it there because it's too late now. It's not close enough that Captain America could have picked it up after moving anyway, because he was sitting on some power. It's not close enough. So it is just going to sit there, but that does mean that the Criminal Syndicate doesn't score it because MODOK was dazed. That part definitely happened. But it is a bit unfortunate. Forgot that he was holding on to the scroll. And that was going to be the only point that Criminal Syndicate scored. The Avengers almost scored a perfect round by getting every single point available. That one scroll is the only point they missed out on. They hold all 3 of the Origin Bombs for 3, and then Captain America, Hulkbuster and Vision are holding scrolls. So they're up to 9, and the Criminal Syndicate didn't shift off of 3. Very rough turn for them, but a bunch of them have a ton of power to use. They're going to be flipping cards, 4 cards is it? Bullseye, MODOK, Black Cat, and Shadowlands. Yeah, they're flipping 4 cards. So they've got a lot of damage coming in, and they'll be able to turn it around, I think. But it is annoying that, you know, the MODOK holding on to that objective was totally forgotten about when he was dazed. The statue not being removed doesn't really matter because it doesn't affect anything that happened. But that could have. Don't remember the turn, or Gambit might have moved instead of attacking twice, although him attacking twice did some good work against Vision and Hulkbuster. So, you know, it's too long ago to go back, but it was spotted eventually. So Criminal Syndicate had priority in Battle Round 3. Shadowland Daredevil activated, sitting on a bunch of power. And this is one of those frustrating activations for sure that you can have in Crisis Protocol. Even more frustrating than Helios Laser Bombardment doing nothing. Because on paper this should have been an absolutely bombastic, amazing activation. He spent a total of 5 power. 2 of it on There Is Only the Beast, which means that if he does a Devil's Deliverance, which is only on his flip side, it becomes Area 2 rather than just select a target. 7 dice Mystic. So he did that, then he did Devil's Deliverance. It was hitting Clint, the Hulkbuster, and Captain America just barely. They were all within range 2 of where he was standing. And the total damage of all those dice rolled was 1 damage to Hawkeye. 7 dice Mystic against 3 targets and 1 damage. Oh, and the Hulkbuster spent 1 on Build to take it, expecting it to do more. So, you know, drained 1 power from the Hulkbuster and did 1 damage to Hawkeye, who has 2 Mystic defense. That is honestly infuriating. No matter which side of the table you're on, that is infuriating. That should not have happened. It should have done more. Even with his rerolls, it was garbage. So for his other action, he retreated medium in order to pay 1 power to pick up the scroll that MODOK dropped. So he is holding that. He's a bit tankier on his day's side. But yeah, that Devil's Deliverance should have honestly taken out those 2 and hurt him really bad. But what can you do? So first activation of the 3rd battle round was Vision for the Avengers. He moved up because he saw a nice lovely line of accidentally placed enemies in a row, and then he did his solar beam on them. MODOK took no damage from it. Shadowland Daredevil took 2 and Bullseye took 2. So then he paid 2 or 3, it's 2 on the Synthoid Avenger, I think it's called, or no, sorry, Calculated Trajectory. Size 3 or less terrain or character, within 2, throw it medium. He picked up Shadowland's Daredevil and chucked him into Bullseye, so Shadowland's Daredevil takes 1 damage by default. And Bullseye took 2 more, so unfortunately Bullseye's not getting much of a... Oh, he's trapped under the boulder there. He's not getting much of a game because he is out of there, and obviously not getting an activation. So he's off the table. Clearly was hoping for MODOK to go down because he's only got 4 health on his day's side, but as it stands he is going to get to activate, which probably won't end well for Vision, but he did okay. MODOK activated for Criminal Syndicate after the disastrous turn from Shadowland Daredevil. Incidentally, there was a couple of activated tokens on Criminal Syndicate characters left there by accident. It was mostly from disgust of what Daredevil failed to do. Anyway, MODOK activated, and it was tempting to finish off Vision on his healthy side just to get the Skrull he held, but there was a tastier target. So MODOK moved over here, used his Doomsday Chair on the Hulkbuster, who did pay his other 1 power he had left from the power phase on Built to Take It. Wasn't enough. That 4 damage is enough, he's dazed. MODOK paid 1 to pick up the Skrull that the Hulkbuster has dropped, and when he would flip his card at the end of the turn, he will be spitting out the emergency support suit instead, which counts as healthy, so it's not all bad. Not nearly as strong as the Hulkbuster, didn't really get to do much. The Doomsday Chair then got to move on to doing an attack onto Clint. 7 dice physical, the initial roll had 1 success, and the Shadow War reroll made it 2. Clint fully blocked it on his 4 defense dice. Does still get bled regardless. The Hulkbuster would have as well, but he was dazed, so it doesn't matter. He then paid 1 power to try and interact with the Origin Bomb and failed. So still not great for the Criminal Syndicate, to be honest. Very, very frustrating. Steve Rogers activated, stayed where he was, and just did 2 of his basic attacks, the Stars and Stripes Strike, and he did them on MODOK, didn't get the flurry on either of them, so Criminal Syndicate should consider themselves lucky. They might still have a chance as a result, because he could have done both of them into Shadowlands Daredevil. He did them both into MODOK, both ended up doing 2 damage. That does mean though that MODOK is out of there. He drops the Skrull he's holding. Captain America is already holding one, so he can't pick it up, so it's been put down there next to Clint. Taskmaster activated, paid 1 to interact with the Origin Bomb and converted it without taking damage. For his first action, he moved medium to chase after Hawkeye. He paid 1 to pick up the Skrull, did not get moved by it. And then he just used his Sword Strike on Clint, did 4, needed to do 2, so that is Hawkeye dazed. After dazing him, he played No Mercy. When an allied character would daze an enemy character, the allied character may play this card to get 3 power. So he's just pumping himself full of power for the next turn. So Ant-Man activated and immediately hitched a ride to be placed within 3 as a free action, putting him right up in Shadowland Daredevil's grill. He did an ant-sized uppercut for 2 damage, making him grow large, giving him 2 power as well, which gave him a total of 5. He eventually spent all 5. He spent 4 of it on Bullet Ant Barrage. 7 dice physical, if it deals damage it would do stun and whatnot. It did 3 damage though, so that is irrelevant because Shadowland Daredevil is out of there. That finishes him off. He dropped his Skrull, which Ant-Man paid his last power to pick up. Using the ant-sized uppercut puts you back to normal size, and then Bullet Ant Barrage is a beam 3, so that's why he's back there, but it would be dropped within range that you can pick it up. So he's holding on to that. That's the Avengers done for the turn though, so it's over to Gambit and Black Cat to see if they can salvage something from this with 3 of the Criminal Syndicate's 7 left on the table. So of those 2, it was Black Cat to activate first. She paid 1 to interact with the Origin Bomb, successfully converted it, but took 1 damage in the process. I guess she did it so Gambit wouldn't have to, or maybe it's just that 1 Origin Bomb that's cursed. Either way, she then moved after Vision and just tried to do her 4 dice physical Cat's Claws with Pierce on Wilds, and was not able to pierce his 5 defense dice physical. Gambit activated and started by using a Kinetic Ace on Vision, did 2 damage, which dazed him. He dropped his Skrull, which Gambit picked up. He then moved for his other action right into the centre, paid 1 power to interact with the Central Origin Bomb and did convert it, but did hurt himself, so it's just his curse. He doesn't know what he's doing, he keeps hurting himself when he does it. But he did succeed. There was no competition there, so he just had to get 1. So he has converted it, and that means all Origin Bombs are actually under the control of the Criminal Syndicate. So as bad as it's been for their survivability, they did really well there for scoring, but let's cover that in a second. So at the end of Battle Round 3, things aren't looking great for the Criminal Syndicate in terms of how many of them are left, but they certainly did well scoring wise. They got all 3 of the Origin Bombs for 3 victory points. Taskmaster has a Skrull, so does Gambit, so they've got a total of 5, taking them up to 8. The Avengers obviously had none of the Origin Bombs, but they have the other 2 Skrulls. One's on Captain America, one's on full-sized Ant-Man. So they got 2, taking them up to 11. But obviously, again, not looking great for Criminal Syndicate numbers-wise. Still can't get over that Devil's Deliverance Area 2 7 dice Mystic 3 times doing 1 damage. That's not something that should happen. Rolling 7 dice once and having it whiff, yeah, that happens, it sucks, but it happens. 3 times in a row is part of the same attack. The odds on that have to be huge. Anyway, moving on to round 4. The Avengers are back having first activation. We'll show where little suit Iron Man pops out because he's flipping his card now, as is Hawkeye and Vision. So as we start Battle Round 4, here is where Tony is ejecting himself as the Hulkbuster suit exploded, adjacent to the problematic Origin Bomb that keeps hurting people when they try and tinker with it. Vision got the turn started for the Avengers. He moved down to where you can see him there, then did a Synthesized Avenger attack, 7 dice physical onto Gambit, did 2 damage and dazed him. He then paid 1 power to pick up the scroll that Gambit dropped. He also interacted with the Origin Bomb, successfully converted it, but it damaged him. So he took 1 damage from that. Still looking like the Avengers have this, but we'll see what Taskmaster and Black Cat do. Well, Taskmaster activated, moved over here to try and get away from potential people punching him for the scroll he's holding. He attacked Ant-Man with hopes of either doing enough damage to take him down to daze him, or to force him to turn small beforehand, with risk of being dazed, that would make him drop the scroll he's holding anyway. But he took the hit, and the hit was only 1 damage, so that puts him at 2 damage in total. So not exactly the killer activation they were hoping for, really. Captain America activated and immediately started by spending on a I don't like bullies on Taskmaster. Only did 2 damage, which is a little lower than you'd expect, but 2 damage, and rather than attack him again knowing that his mnemonic technique would mean he has 5 defense dice, Cap just moved next to the Origin Bomb, interacted with it, and converted it. So Black Cat activated, moved along down here, and then used, what's it called, Cat Burglar? Master Cat Burglar to snatch the scroll that Vision was holding off of him and just keeping it in her pocket, I guess. She did also try and convert the Origin Bomb she's standing on, but was unable to. And then she just did a basic Cat Claws attack on Clint, and it did no damage. He fully blocked it on his 4 defense and dice. She did snatch the scroll, which means that Criminal Syndicate still have 2, they're each holding 1, but it's not going to change things really. All that comes down to what can affect the end of the game now is, can Ant-Man, Hawkeye or Iron Man convert that Origin Bomb. So we're going to just quickly run that through and then go to the end phase. And yeah, Clint hook arrowed over, or he could have just walked actually, come to think of it, but either way, on his 2 dice, he got the 1 success he needed. No damage to himself though, so he kind of broke the curse for that one, but he is converting that to Avengers now, which means they hold all 3, and with that we can just go to the end of the turn, because I believe they get to the 16 they need to win just on the dot. Yep, at the end of round 4 the Avengers have taken it with all 3 Origin Bombs plus 2 out of the 4 scroll. That's 5 victory points, taking them to exactly the 16 required to win. The Criminal Syndicate, what was left of them, did make a bit of a comeback. They had the other 2 scroll in their possession, taking them to 10, so the loss wasn't by quite as big a margin as it was looking after the second turn. But obviously very disastrous. Shadowland Daredevil got ruined by dice luck, that's all there is to it. He should have got a double daze and some decent damage on Captain America as well. It is insane that he didn't. That's the worst series of rolls I think has ever happened on the channel, and was probably game changing. It honestly probably was. MODOK did okay with his Doomsday Chairs. It could have been better, but he did okay. So it did just come down to that one Area 2 attack sinking 6 power, and I think I said 5 at the time, it was 6, because it's 3 power for the attack and 3 for There Is Only the Beast. So it was a big investment. It should have had a massive payout, and it didn't, and that's what cost the game. Honestly, I think that was the turning point. And the Avengers comfortably took it after that, but what was left of the Criminal Syndicate stood and fought, if nothing else. That is going to do it for this video though. I sincerely hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you very much for doing so. If you'd like to show your support, a like or a comment goes a long way, or if you want to go above and beyond, consider pressing the thanks button or becoming a channel member. It helps out, and it's all reinvested in the channel. You'll be able to pick up some new characters as a result. Thank you for watching either way though, and hopefully see you again, and aiming to do these like every 2 weeks. Until next time, ta-ta for now.